Alright, so this is just a brief comic book related update. No vinyl records or anything. So if you don't like that, maybe move on. I don't know. Or stick around. Okay, so, I'm not going to turn my channel into a lot to do with comics. And I'd mentioned it once before because Rod asked me the other day, hey, I see you wear a lot of comic shirts, and was wondering, hey, do you collect comics? As a kid, up until the early 80s, I did collect comics. Over the past 20 years, really not a whole lot in the past 5 or 6 years, but maybe 10 years ago, I was going to the comic book store regularly here locally, but mainly just for some topics like I was picking up the Kiss comics that were coming out that at that time, like Alice Cooper. I was getting all the rock comics that were coming out, but I was also staying up with some of my favorite heroes like Nova and all of that. Now, I'm not going to go into all of that. I just thought nowadays Marvel and the Marvel Universe and so many Marvel related movies are coming out. And, people are getting on the bandwagon. Now, I am more of a Marvel fan. I know I do wear some DC shirts occasionally, but I honestly don't know as much about the DC universe. And so, but I do watch, all things comic book related. I watch all those movies too. But I know more history about the Marvel side. Anyway, we just recently were watching the Moon Knight series. My kids are like, man, I really love it. I really like Moon Knight. He looks so cool. And I'm like, yeah, I've always been a big fan. I've got, a lot of his stuff early on. My wife had never heard of him. I went out to my shed and I said, see, honey, look, I got the Moon Knight toy. Bought this a handful of years ago when they were releasing all of these. So, anyway, neither here nor there. So I have a bunch of comics from the 70s and early 80s. And they're in my closet, in the foot of the closet, underneath all of my hanging clothes. But on top of the box, so they're all in long white boxes and bagged and boarded. I've done all that in the past 20, 30 years, bagged and boarded everything. Probably longer than that. Yeah, probably close to 30 years ago. Some of them had gotten wet, and so I was trying to keep them safe and everything. But on top of the long boxes are magazines and things that wouldn't fit in there. And so every time I go in there to get things out of the closet, and if I look down, I see those. So, if I want to get strength again, I can pull out my Marvel Fitness book that I wrote in 1976. December 25th, 1976. I assume I got this book for Christmas when I was 10. Anyway, and this one caught my eye for some reason, and it's like, okay, interesting. The Avengers with Doctor Strange. Now, this is a English comic. You can see that 7 pence. So it's a way different. It's a little bigger. It's in black and white. But here's the thing that caught my eye. Doctor Strange, Dormammu, which we've seen, he was in the Doctor Strange movie. And then over here, Shang-Chi recently had a movie with him. So I just picked it up and thought, that's interesting that they're both on here. And so you've got the Shang-Chi section of the comic. But then I'm flipping, and I get to this little Avengers section, and the Black Knight lives again. Now, while I'm up on a lot of the ins and outs of some of the early Marvel stuff, there's a lot of things that go right past me. And so when these movies make reference to some of that stuff, I don't immediately catch on to that. So I do watch a lot of YouTube videos of people who are explaining the end scenes and explaining the connections and some of that stuff that maybe I missed. And so, for instance, at the end of the Eternals movie, which I collected the Eternals comics back in the day when they first came out, but honestly, I didn't really like the artwork very much, and I can't say that I remembered the storyline that much, so I definitely wanted to see the movie. But at the end of that movie and throughout the movie, there's a guy in it, and I didn't catch his name. I didn't know Dane Whitman or what that meant until the very end when he opens the box with the sword talks to him. Do you really want to do that? Turns out that's the Black Knight. As you can see right here, it says, in order to regain the honor of the Black Knight, Dane Whitman, nephew to the original Black Knight, has taken the mantle onto his own shoulders. So this is basically when you touch the sword, you become the Black Knight. That's what he was about to do in the movie. I just thought it was interesting. Here's another reference in the movie that it kind of went over my head until I went back and looked at it and said, oh, the Black Knight. And then The Ebony Blade, which is the blade that was in the box. They referenced that in the Eternals movie too. Their girl says, hey, is that the Ebony Blade? And the character says, no, this is Excalibur. So anyway, and then, then you flip on by. So this is when he first becomes a Black Knight. But then you flip on by, and then the next section, so it's kind of like 3 comics in one. The next section is Dormammu from the Doctor Strange. Again, it was interesting. All 3 of those have been in movies recently. We're seeing a lot of stuff happen in the movies. Like I say, the Moon Knight series just started. Loving that. There are talks of a Nova series, which is one of my other smaller characters that I've always loved. And of course, there was a little blurb, a little piece of the Nova characters and the Nova Corps, in the Guardians of the Galaxy and all of that situation. So I just thought it was neat. This is, I had a friend, one of my best friends, still a Facebook friend, one of my best friends in my childhood days, all the way through high school, was from England, and so we were always able to get these English comics. He might have even given me this because he probably had extras, but just a brief touch on, yes, I had collected comics. No, I don't actively collect them now, but I am still all about the Marvel stuff and still love all the movies and the trivia and all that stuff. So, like it or not, that's all. I just wanted to share a little bit of fun. I don't know. I might pull the comics out because I wanted to kind of start looking at it again, go back and see what is the Moon Knight ones I had and what were the ones that I have that have been bagged up for years and years and years and not looked at. I may show some here and there. I'll make sure I mark the videos clearly so that if I do another comic book one and you don't like comic books, you can just pass on by. Show some love, though. Thanks a lot for watching. I'll be back.